All right. Hey, just extremely excited to be here today. Obviously, it's an exciting day for Duck football. Really pumped about some of the additional pieces we were able to add, to our team and to our program today. Got some great guys coming aboard. I think we were able to attack in a short amount of time. I think our coaches did a tremendous job, and our support staff did a tremendous job early on, going to identify some needs in our program and some elite players that can come be a part of what we're doing. So very appreciative to all the hard work that's gone in to not just today, but the last signing period and kind of falling pieces together. It's a pretty exciting time for us.
Questions? Start with James Carpia from the Oregonian.
Dan, I realize there's still potential additions the rest of today. So what do you feel are potential areas of need to address either later today or in the weeks and months ahead relative to the portal? I know there's still a lot of room in terms of initial count. There's a little bit less so relative to 85. I know that always moves though. So where do you feel like, for as much as you were able to address, where there may be still areas that you'd like to address in the weeks and months ahead?
Yeah, certainly still a little fluid, James. I think, we anticipate, probably ending up with a couple more guys here today that we're battling for, that we feel strong about, that we could end up landing. But ultimately, I don't know if there's one position need, because you don't know exactly what position's available, James, if you know what I mean. As things continue to move and shake and shift, I think time will tell kind of what direction we go there.
Zach Neal, Duckswire.
Coach, I was wondering if you could put into context how difficult this recruiting cycle has been for you, simply because of the uphill nature it presented coming to Oregon late and being handed a class with a school record 16 decommitments. What type of challenges did you face trying to rebuild that class, and how were you ultimately able to succeed that?
Yeah, I mean, for us, I think as a staff, it was a challenge, but a challenge we welcome. Oregon's a phenomenal place. We've got ability to get great players here. And I think people just had to have an opportunity to sit down, listen to us, and realize that we have a genuine group here that care. And certainly excited about the group we were able to put together. Max
Torres, Ducks Digest.
Coach, you obviously came over to Oregon while still, handling things with Georgia. But I'm curious, how did you go about managing the changing college football landscape? You have things like NIL and the transfer portal all going on. Can you just kind of put that into context for us, how you adapted there?
Yeah, I think as a coach and certainly just as somebody that's operating in today's landscape in college football, you have to be willing to adapt and change. Ask questions, right? Don't assume that you know everything. And I think we kind of worked through that process together, was able to put a great staff together that sees big picture. I think it starts there, everybody having a similar vision as we approach, each team right now. I think there's a lot of teams that don't know what direction this will head. And everyone's taking a different approach. And I think at the end of the day, you can look at our approach. Yeah, we're going to look to enhance our program through the transfer portal. But we're also going to spend more time looking to enhance our program through, the high school signees. And I don't know if every program is approaching it that same way, but we still want to be able to develop players. But it's going to change year to year. I think we'll continue to adapt our approach as we move forward.
Eric Scopel, 247 Sports.
Coach, in December, you addressed defense primarily. This week, it looks like a lot of offense. Just Justice and Jordan in particular, receiver and running back being two positions where it seems like there might be opportunity early on. Kind of, how do you foresee those two guys maybe impacting things even this fall?
Yeah, first off, I just think they're both really, phenomenal human beings and dynamic players. Obviously, Jordan's a guy that I had a relationship with before my time at Georgia. Also really fortunate enough that Coach Lachlan in his previous job had a relationship with Jordan, just in case something like this or an opportunity like this would ever present itself for Coach. So we had strong ties there. Think that he's a dynamic player, obviously has the ability to be a one-touch touchdown kind of guy and get the ball down the field. And then Justice, we're going to battle to keep the best in our state, right? And we think we should be able to keep the best in our state. Obviously, he's in that category. And I think, before the day's over with, people realize that we were able to be really competitive in our state and be able to get guys on board on our team. So I'm thrilled about him, more thrilled about what kind of people both of those young men are.
Matt Preem, 247 Sports.
Dan, you just kind of touched on it there. The importance of in-state recruiting. I know you said when you were hired that you were going to go anywhere the players are at, but how big of a factor is it that there are 3 or 4 guys every year in the state that you can devote time to and not have to use one whole day to go see one person?
Yeah, I know. I think it's huge. I mean, my very first day recruiting, the very first day I could get on the road, I spent that time in Oregon and that time in Portland and in the area. So that'll always be a priority for us. And obviously, for us, we have the ability to go anywhere, and that's a blessing. But we have to win home first.
Tyson Alger, I-5 corridor.
I know you have ties to a lot of the guys on your staff through prior jobs, but during this type of recruiting process where you guys are all new, like how important is coach chemistry? And have you guys like all been in the same room together, your entire staff? Like, have you had a meeting together?
Yeah, great question, Tyson. Yes, we have. Obviously early on it was Zooms, right? Until, finishing the national championship game. And then getting here, we were able to have several in-person meetings. I think yet to share a vision, you guys have to be on the same page, and it's kind of been a little bit of a frat house mentality for some of us. We're staying in the same house, for a while here while our families get adjusted and get acclimated to the area. So, for us, football doesn't stop, at 7 at night. It's going into the wee hours of the night, drawing up plays, watching film in the basement. Been really fortunate to be able to talk ball. I think we were drawing plays on a mirror last night in a house. So it's been a lot of fun connecting with the staff. And just like I talk about connection with our players, connection with our staff is really, really important. So I've been thrilled with that progress.
James.
I know there are a couple of transfers, Dan, so I hope you can reference them because I believe they've signed, but they came off a bit intriguing in Riley and Boyle in particular, just because of the depth in the position at the interior D-line, and Boyle because he's done more punting than kicking and kickoffs, and you have a punter and kicker there. So what do you see as their roles in joining the roster as transfers?
I wish I could talk in more depth on some of those guys, but right now I'm not able to speak in depth on that.
Max.
Yeah, Coach Lanning, I know earlier today, Coach Martin was talking about how in the secondary, he really likes the speed and length that you guys have added there. Obviously, with college football being, I think, increasingly pass heavy, just wanted to get your perspective on how valuable it is to add guys like that.
Yeah, I think we ended up signing 9 guys that have like a track and field background. We signed 5 guys that run under a 10-700, which for us on defense, the way we play the brand of football we're going to play, it's really, really important. And, in fact, we have a couple guys coming in that are going to be able to compete in track as well. And I know I was excited on signing day, but I think Coach Johnson was just as excited. So that fires me up. But yeah, the game's about speed, right? And we got to be able to run and hit and tackle and catch and block. All those things matter, but speed's one thing that's hard to change. And we have some guys coming in that can do that.
Eric.
Coach, I was wondering, just following up on that, who is capable of running under 10-7 and that's really fast. And then I guess just players that are thinking about doing both sports. You mentioned there might be a couple of guys. Are you able to speak to who that is?
Yeah, I'm not going to hop into that, but I can promise you, Eric, I can't run a 10-7. So we got some fast guys though, man. I don't think you have to do too deep of a dive. Like Kamari's one that comes to mind. Terrell from Killeen, he can scoot. So we've got a couple that we've added, definitely some additional pieces. Got a couple linebackers coming in that can really run. But yeah, it's just a good group in general.
Matt.
Talked a little bit about Kamari there, but just the importance of him and Jaleel Florence, getting him back into the fold here. Your thoughts on how they fit your defense and just the significance of getting those 2 guys.
Yeah, obviously Kamari, Jaleel, both Jaleels were really, really excited about there in the secondary. All those guys have a track background and speed, but they're just great humans. I think they all wanted an opportunity to be able to sit and visit with us and spend some time. And I think I'm just as excited about what kind of character they have beyond just what they are as players. But one thing they all have in common, they're all long. They all have great speed. So those are big pieces for us moving forward.
Zach Neal.
Coach, I know Marshall said in an interview earlier that you guys are still kind of behind when it comes to the 2023 class, the 2024 class. Are there things that you can do to try and make up ground in any way over the next couple months?
Yeah, we'll be aggressive in our approach moving forward. We've already been able to have a couple guys on campus with the unofficial period this past month. we'll definitely attack that coming in March. One of the biggest things that we can do as a fan base and a staff is focus on getting guys here for the 23rd for our spring game. April 23rd, 1 p.m. We need to pack the crowd, make Autzen the experience we know it can be. But that's one of the big pieces moving forward. And then just getting more of these guys on the phone, on campus, on Zooms. That's where we'll attack moving forward.
James.
With some of the churn, Dan, the biggest impact was felt in Texas. The class had been lined up with, I think it was 5 or 6 players out of Texas. Kamari comes from there. Obviously, with Drew and Matt and their connections there, where do you see philosophically the approach to Texas Tech? Say it was such a shift or a shift back to really where it used to be about 10 years ago. And it had been a state where maybe periodically they get 1 or 2. They had 5 or 6. Where do you see the recruiting efforts there in the long term?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit year to year. We want to go attack, the players that we think fit us and organizationally wherever they at. And sometimes that's going to be Texas, and sometimes it'll be more in Texas than others. But we have great, strong ties there on our staff, certainly, just like we do on the West Coast and the Pacific Northwest. It'll definitely be a place that we always go have a footprint, and we're going to attack. I just don't know what that number will be like year in and year out.
Max.
Coach, I really enjoyed listening to Coach Laughlin and what he had to say on the signing day show. Just his mentality really stood out to me. Can you talk a little bit about kind of where you see your guys' visions lining up and what you kind of like about him?
Yeah, I mean, Coach Locke is a guy that I first got to meet when I was at Memphis. Obviously, was really excited whenever we got the opportunity to bring him here. I feel like he got it out the mud, man. This guy grinded and worked for everything he got. He started off as a volunteer. I look over one day, he's wearing a T-shirt and he's out there on the field. I'm not sure exactly where he came from. And I have an appreciation for guys like that didn't get it with a spoon in their mouth. And he cares deeply for his players. Obviously has some familiarity with the position playing it. But whenever I was able to talk to guys that he helped mentor and put in the league there from his time at Memphis and coaching, it's really apparent the impact he had on those players, and that's something that stuck out to me and our staff bringing Locke in here. And I'm thrilled he's part of what we're doing.
Matt Prim.
Can you put into just context, just the role Marshall Malchow has for you guys in this class? When he was hired and it was announced, there was a lot of people talking about why it was a significant get for you and this staff. And it's a role that a lot of people aren't really familiar with that are outside of the football industry. Can you just put into context just how helpful he is and his staff is and why it was such a big get for you?
Yeah, Malco. Yeah, he's a stud. He first off, you look and you want to surround yourself with great people, people that you enjoy being around. And Marshall and I got to work together at Georgia, and it was apparent to me really early that Marshall's a lead at his job. Great with relationships, shares big picture vision that I look for. He'll be our chief of staff here. So kind of work hand in hand in all facets of the program, obviously heavily involved in personnel and recruiting, but kind of a guy that I can bounce ideas off day to day. So definitely a big piece of what we want to do here, and somebody I knew that I immediately wanted to target when I got the job.
Eric Scopel.
Coach, when is spring football starting for you guys? How many players you've signed so far do you expect to be a part of that? And then your general philosophy in terms of, is it a case-by-case basis you want a kid to enroll early? Is it, you think everybody benefits from being on campus a little early? What's your perspective on that?
Yeah, we don't have an exact number yet. Still kind of going through that process as far as who will be joining us. Obviously, we crank up in mid-March, and then we'll have a little bit of spring break there and then finish up through the end of April. But I like getting guys here as quick as I can, but I want it to fit within their high school experience and them finishing up, the way they have to be able to finish up there. So I do think that's a case-by-case basis as well. They have to be prepared for the rigors of college. They have to be ready to go attack it. But yeah, we want to get as many here as quick as we can so they can, get acclimated to school, be a part of learning our system and how we operate and what we do.
Brandon Gibson, Ducks Sports Authority.
Coach, what type of impact do you see the transfer portal having on upcoming classes?
For us specifically at Oregon or in general, Brandon?
Both, like for you guys and for in general.
I think it's changed the game in a lot of ways, not just for us at Oregon, but in college football. You can see it, I think, there's less high school players being recruited at times. That can be an advantage for us because we're going to be aggressive in recruiting high school players. I think teams can change their rosters quickly. It's a little bit of a balancing act. I don't know that we'll completely know the entire impact until we sit here 4 years from now and we kind of do an analysis of what it's looked like. For us, again, we're going to continue to evaluate. I'm not going to have a hard stance one way or the other until we know how it benefits us and impacts us.
Gary Thompson, Ducks Illustrated.
Congratulations, Coach. With just 3 running backs until today, and the scholarship running backs, that is, how excited are you to get Jordan James? And 4 still's not very many, right? Going to need to get some more, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty jacked to get Jordan. I'm certainly pumped about him, and I think that we can be creative in our approach. We have some talent at other positions, obviously, on our roster on offense, and we'll use guys in a variety of ways. Even if that means putting a wide out in the backfield, moving people around. I think we can do that here. But we're always going to look to enhance the backfield. I feel really great about the guys we have in that group right now. And Jordan obviously enhances that moving forward.
James.
Dan, what are your thoughts on something that Kenny was saying earlier on the in-house show, talking about philosophically pro style, but extremely fast, 80 plays a game as a target? No one in college football hit that number for the entire season this season. I get that that's a goal to aspire for. Has been done before. North Texas did it a year ago. Duke was close, others. Oregon hasn't done it in a conference game in about 5 or 6 years. And the last time it did it all season was 2012. But it gets a lot of fans really excited because maybe it wasn't exactly their brand of offense most recently. How do you approach it philosophically in trying to do something where it's not just a recruiting tagline? You really do want to go at that pace.
Yeah, it has to be a weapon for us. I also think that sometimes those numbers get skewed a little bit, James, just like if we're in a game and we're doing really well, that pace is going to change potentially down the stretch. So if a game's at hand or if you're scoring quickly, that doesn't always equate to 80 plays. But I know how uncomfortable it can make a defense, and we want to be able to do that in this league. There's two things I think people don't realize. It's one thing to go fast. It's another thing to be fast and efficient. And we want to be fast and efficient. We don't want to just be fast. So that's something obviously that Coach Dillingham has great experience in his past as a coordinator and in this system. So excited to see him carry it over here and see how it fits us.
We got time for 2 more. Max.
Coach, you've obviously worked with your fair share of top-tier defensive linemen. A couple guys I want to talk about, get your thoughts on. Got Ben Roberts and Sir Mel. Is just what goes into attacking the trenches and why you think that's so important in this class.
I think size and speed is a premium, and I think you have to get guys. A lot of people have asked me what's the difference in places I've been in the past, and I think the D-line's one of those places where it starts. You have to win the game at the line of scrimmage, period. That's football. So adding those guys are going to be pieces of the puzzle for us moving forward that can certainly enhance our ability, to be effective at that spot. And the defenses that I've been a part of that have been strong have good D linemen and play good along the defensive front.
Final question, Matt Preem.
I was just going to ask just your thoughts on being at Oregon. You mentioned you were in 10 states in 14 days, and you haven't had a lot of opportunity to be around since you've been hired because of recruiting, understandably so. But just as you've been around town more a little bit, just have you figured out some things that you didn't really realize about the program or the school?
Yeah, just the love for the program is so strong. I've been so impressed. We got some time last night to spend with the alumni base, Monday night to spend with, former players. And hearing their passion for our program, how much they love Oregon has really stood out to me. We got an opportunity to hang out with Lodi Nada this past weekend, Kenyon Barner, and the hearts. These guys have big hearts. They care about Oregon. To be sitting there with a guy that's won Super Bowls and he's offering to give you a ride or show up to a dinner or just be around, that means the world to me. I'm excited about that. And that's certainly been a welcome surprise.